After a long day, most couples greet each other with that traditional, how's it going? How was your day?
The usual question you ask at the end of any day. Well, if you're looking at improving your relationship, those are the wrong questions to ask. In fact, Studio 5 relationship coach Matt Townsend says you're asking questions to the wrong person altogether. So who should we be asking those questions to?
To your neighbor.
Oh.
Or your children. That's what I would do. No.
Neighbor,
I just think
how
that's
are
funny.
you?
Neighbor, how was your day? I don't know. I like the how was your day question. That's great. But most of the time, that question to me is the same way we drive. Have you ever driven somewhere and not remembered getting there?
Yeah.
Or how you got there? We ask that question in a mindless way. I don't care about most of your questions, but there's certain times you have to ask questions. And I don't think you need to ask them to your partner. You need to ask them to yourself. Because most of the time, it's really us that's messed up, don't you think?
Well, for yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, who are you talking about?
I'm trying to speak generally. Now, here's the deal. Think about it. You guys are going to have a hard time with this because you don't have troubled relationships. But if you had a relationship that you had a moment that it didn't go so well, okay, think of that experience. And all of you,
conflict.
all of you down in, and one with conflict, one where you didn't show the highest level of character, one where you kind of blew it, you did something stupid, kind of embarrassing, okay? That is the moment where most of us ask questions that aren't necessarily the right questions. Like, what's your problem? Where have you been? You know what I mean? Where's your head? Stuff like that. Those are just fun to say. But
and they change your mind so quickly.
Oh, I do. I've got a billion of them.
Like you've been asked those once or twice before,
I have.
you know?
Okay, let's not talk about me.
Okay.
Jeez, my wife's not here this week. We can keep moving. But one of the things I found is this. It's like an airplane flying. An airplane doesn't fly a straight line. So most of the time that the airplane's in the air, it's actually not on course. Just like you driving home, most of the time your front of your car is not facing your driveway. So the way we keep eventually making it home as we're progressing is we keep checking in to home. Same thing with our relationships. If we want to make it home and have a good, healthy relationship, I believe there's 4 questions we need to be asking, okay? Each question is something that I think turns on a light in our lives or our relationships. For example, think about that experience where you had the bad moment, okay? First question I want you to ask is called the self-awareness question, which is simply, what part of that problem am I? One of the things most couples do when they're arguing is they don't ever think about how they're causing the problem. They think about how jacked up their partner is.
They're on the deep end.
Yeah.
They're trying to prove their point.
Exactly. So if you just had a really bad episode with your partner, one of the best things you can do is take a little time out, get some space, and then go take some self-reflection time and ask yourself, hey, what part of that exchange was I? What part of that issue was I? And it'll start to create self-awareness. You'll notice, well, you're tired, you were hungry, you were grouchy, hey, you sounded a lot like your dad, or this happened 5 weeks ago and we said we were going to fix it and we didn't fix it. Self-awareness question, what part of the problem am I? Okay? Now, to me, self-awareness is a great idea. It's kind of not the only thing we need to do. We need to go further. Second question we need to ask then is, what were my partner's needs and wants? In that interchange, in that exchange with our partner, what was my partner's needs and wants? Another question that's similar to that is, what is it like for that person to be married to me? What is it like for that sweet little honey of mine to have to come on KSL with me and do TV? What's that like? Or what's it like to have to interchange with me on an issue of high conflict? What were her needs and wants in the moment, and what's it like to be with me? Those are questions that are basically about empathy. So notice what I've turned on. Self-awareness, what part of the problem am I? And empathy, what is it like for her to have to be with me? 2 powerful lights. Now, think about your situation. Were either of you part of the problem?
Never.
Ever. Okay, we'll work with you more later.
And clearly, because I was thinking about me, and I was tired. I wanted to go to bed. I wanted to, you know, move on with things, and my wife had things that she wanted to discuss and work out, and I'm like, no, I'm thinking about me.
Big Daddy's got to sleep.
Yeah.
Big Daddy got to go night-night.
Here's what you said about both of those, step away from it, because I think in that moment of conflict, it's really hard to be honest with yourself, because emotions are high, you're in the moment, you're living in your situation and what you know, so to step away from it sounds like a great
So what does that mean then? Is because emotions are high and we can't step away, it means we don't learn. So now we start creating relationships where we're not learning, which is the equivalent of flying an airplane without ever checking in to where we're going. At some point, the airplane has to check in. The quicker it checks in to where it's going, the more likely it is to stay on course. It's just going to have little deviations to the final destination. But if you wait months or years before you start recognizing what part of the problem you are and the empathy for your partner, you're going to be so far off course you might not be able to recover. Third question, though, one of my favorites, is the vision question. What is it really that we're trying to create here? What is it that we want most here? It's a big vision question. What do we want to create together? So if I just got in an argument with my wife, I recognize what part of the problem I am. I'm tired. What were her needs and wants? She just wants some time and attention. And what do we want most together? That's kind of me checking into the airport. And once I know what we want most together, here's my favorite of all questions. I call it the conscience question. It's the last question. What's the most important thing I can do today to positively impact my relationship? So if I just got in an argument with my wife, I ask simply, what's the most important thing I can do right now to go fix this and become the marriage I want to become? And now what it does is it engages my conscience. My conscience is what creates all integrity in our relationships. Then I just have to exercise character and go and do what I want to do. My conscience might say, okay, dude, you got to go apologize to your wife. And I'm like, so sick of apologizing. When's she going to apologize? And I start getting into that. Then I go back to self-awareness. See, dude, you're putting it off. Why are you putting it off? What does she need? She needs the apology. You want to be a great, happy, lasting couple. What's the most important thing I can do right now is go apologize. 4 questions, 4 lights. I think the more light you can get in your relationship, the more you learn, the better off you'll be.
Works on the smaller scale. A simple example is an apology. It probably works on the bigger scale as well. Just taking your mind and your emotions through those 4 questions.
When I go through my workshops, that's all I do is keep prompting and priming people on those questions. What part of this relationship failure are you? What are your partner's needs and wants? What do you want most together? What's the most important thing you can do today?
You like question number 4. I actually like question number 3 the most on what do we want, because normally we think, you know, we're thinking we're this team together, but then we so often think so selfishly, what do I want?
What do I want?
But then when you can turn it to both of us together, what do we want together? And then you realize, we're yoked together, let's get toward the final goal.
And think about it, if you've spent a lot of time talking with your partner about what we want together, it can be very clear. You could make it a phrase. This is what we're about, and that fight doesn't get us there. So then what's the most important thing I can do to not do that again? Maybe an apology, whatever the change is.
Okay.
It
works. I promise.
Good stuff, Townsend. You're kind of smart.
You know,
about stuff like this.
That's what all the ladies say.
I had to throw in the kind of. Date night coming up?
Yes. November. I have to look. 14th. Saturday, November 14th. These date nights, by the way, tons of fun. I would get friends, a bunch of friends. Last week we had 100 people come and a bunch of groups of friends, like 5, 6, 7 couples from a neighborhood. Tons of fun. $20 a couple. We'll laugh. We'll cry. The reviews are it's better than cats. That's what we hear.
And like Gail said last time, it is for healthy marriages and for
it's for all couples.
Marriages. Anybody who
and
wants
by the way,
to
you don't even have to be married. You don't even have to know the person you're bringing. Because by the end, you'll be really good friends.
So call the neighbor and see what they're doing.
Call the neighbor. But yeah. But if you're married, please come with your partner.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
That's the rule.